Welcome back, everybody, to the Star Wars podcast, where we talk all things Marvel, Star Wars, and everything in between. Please take a moment to check our show notes to find our social media, merch, and more. Today, we're recapping Loki science fiction in full spoiler detail. So if you haven't seen the episode, I would get out of here. And we have a great guest here today. We've pulled him straight out of the time loop. It is our good buddy, Zach from the Nerd Dose podcast. Zach, how's it going?
It's going. It's going. Good to be here. Excited to talk about Loki. It's been a few episodes since I last been on, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to catch up whenever we can. Well, first and foremost, how's your life? How's everything going? You doing all right?
Yeah, busy as ever, but we're getting through it. Christmas is coming up, my birthday's coming up, so a few more things to kind of look forward to towards the end of the year. What about you? How you been?
Yeah, I'm just busy. Like today, I know I was running late for the podcast. Like I'm just constantly moving. I'm always and like as soon as I sat down here, I started the podcast. So it's just like I am like moving a mile a minute at all times. So firing on all cylinders here today, and excited to talk some Loki.
Got some energy. Woo.
Yes, a little bit. So Zach, I want to get your takes. I feel like you and I have not chatted too much about Loki season 2, so I don't know, like, really your broad stroke opinion on the show thus far. What have you thought of the second season of Loki?
So I hate to be that guy.
Oh no.
It's good. It's definitely better than what we've been seeing, especially compared to like Secret Invasion, Miss Marvel, even Moon Knight. Like I even go as far back as that. But I'm just not blown away, unfortunately. I think it's good. I just don't think it's crazy. Like I'm not on the edge of my seat after each episode like I was for season 1. I think the overall story is kind of lacking. And I feel like by the end of the season, we're just going to be exactly where we finished season 1 with all the time. The loom is fixed, and then we still have endless amount of time, different time streams, whatever universes. There we go.
Yeah, no, and I see that, and I think that's one of the biggest issues with what these Marvel shows have been is they want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to have these shows, but they also want to make it to where you don't have to watch the shows, right? So everything feels a little unimportant to the greater scheme of the MCU. Like they don't want take any of these shows, right? From the start to the end, there hasn't been like a massive change in the world or anything. I think maybe Secret Invasion is the only thing we could really point to. WandaVision a little bit. But other than that, where we start and end, nothing usually changes. So that's kind of where we're at here. And I kind of feel like that's where we're going. I feel like as soon as Loki gets out of the TVA and, is back in our world, it's going to be like, it's going to be like nothing ever happened to him. That's what it kind of feels like a little bit to an extent. I will say also, like, I have definitely been the bigger hater of the two between me and Tommy of this show. And I just want to say, this is definitely, in my opinion, the best MCU show, right? I really enjoy it. I think pound for pound, it's really, really good. But I still have complaints. I could say it's the best one and then still come on here and be like, yeah, but it's still not even like Gen V, right? So that's kind of where I'm at. You think that's a hot take that you don't think Loki's the best MCU show?
Do you include season 1 when you're considering that?
Yeah,
as well?
Okay, both seasons together.
I just think WandaVision is so perfect, and I don't even have a problem with the finale of WandaVision. So I just hold that one pretty highly, like just ranking the MCU entirely, like 1 through 10. I would probably put WandaVision in my top 10 easily. But I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do you think, I feel like this season is definitely trying to build off something and trying to connect to this overall grand universe, this new saga. Do you think that's hurting this season because of that?
Yeah, it's tough to say. I feel like what really hurts it is they don't have a grasp on their multiverse. They don't have a grasp on timelines. They really don't know it. Like from what I'm watching from property to property, it seems like they have no idea what they're doing, and they keep trying to explain it in ways that make no sense to me, right? And there's some stuff in this episode where I'm like, okay, you're just saying this is a thing, but it doesn't make sense scientifically, or like it's kind of goobly gob randomness at all times. And I think that's what hurts Loki the most for me. Again, I enjoyed this episode. It was nice to kind of like see the lives of our TVA members, But at the end of the day, I'm like, what are we doing here? I don't understand why this happened, and I don't understand how you got out of it. You just said you did, basically.
Yeah, it seems like this is like the third project introducing this multi-universe, but it feels so different than the previous ones. It does not feel like anything similar to Doctor Strange or anything like that. So I don't know. It's definitely interesting to see where it's gone.
Yeah, like I'm thinking, like, what was it at the end of No Way Home? There was like that moment
Yeah.
where the multiverse was breaking open. You could like see
Mm,
people like in the clouds, like that visually, or that concept doesn't translate to this at all.
mm,
There's no loom involved there. There's no like we don't even see the branching timelines. It's like a completely different concept, and
mhm.
it's so weird, and I feel like they just don't have it together as far as like an overall picture, which sucks.
Yeah, definitely seems like it's more quantity over quality. I feel like they're gonna try to explain this in King Dynasty, even if that ever comes out. People, I've been hearing lately a lot of people predicting that that movie won't even happen because again, we just don't know. Now they're introducing this new MCU Spotlight, I guess that just came out earlier this
What
week.
is this? Tell me. I think I missed
So
this.
so I think they're introducing this new subcategory in the MCU where it's shows or even specials that you don't have to watch to get the overall saga. So the first show that's going to be a part of this is Echo. So it kind of has their own sub story, but still built into the MCU. And you could probably put like easily put Moon Knight in there, maybe Miss Marvel, but definitely like Hawkeye. So I
First
don't
thing
know.
that came to mind was Werewolf by Night. I know that's not
Yeah,
a TV show,
definitely.
but yeah, it's something that like just completely separate, basically.
Dude, that special makes me mad.
Did you watch the color version?
Yes, I thought it
How
was
was it?
good.
Yeah.
I liked it. I think it was you got to see the gore, which was pretty shocking, but I liked it. And I'm just mad that they introduce I think these are cool characters, and I would love to see them like later team up, like Elsa and Jock, I think that was Werewolf, whatever. And even Alan or Tim, whatever.
Tim Allen, whatever.
Yeah, see them teaming up with maybe even like the Black Knight or Blade, like
Yeah.
in a different type of story. But that's what makes me so mad about that special is they introduce these cool characters, and I just know we're never gonna see them again.
Yeah. I need more Elsa Bloodstone for sure.
Yes.
Um Okay, well let's dive into this particular episode a little bit. And we open basically right where we left off, where it seemed like, the loom had exploded and it seemed like it might be the end of time or whatever. But we cut back, Loki is by himself. And did you have like a theory about what was going to happen here? Was this what you expected as far as seeing the backstories?
I had no idea to be honest, and it made the perfect sense. I guess the biggest question to me is Loki's a variant. Why didn't he go back in his timeline?
That is interesting. Very good point. I don't know if that has to do with like because he was still kind of like time
Time
skipping.
slipping,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I didn't know if maybe that was affecting it, but yeah, something I didn't even really think about. But yeah, that's interesting. So
Like, I think his timeline still exists, like, it didn't get destroyed, so
right, yeah. Okay, yeah, no, that's a. I don't know what that. I feel like that probably means something. I will say to Loki, and I mentioned this already, is the one thing Loki has that no other Marvel show has, including WandaVision, which by the way, I do love WandaVision a lot. It's close for
Mhm,
me when I said that. What Loki has above them, in my opinion, is the way that it can shock me, right? I feel like most of these other shows, we're just kind of going through the motions. I can kind of
mhm.
predict, like, okay, this episode is going to be where everyone comes together, and then this episode is going to be where they fight the final boss. And like, it's just so formulaic. And Loki does kind of break that system a little bit. And I will say, like, that end of the episode, I was kind of shocked. I was like, I don't know
No,
where we're going now. And what we
definitely.
got was not what I expected. And I appreciate that from Marvel.
Yeah, I honestly had no, like, theories or anything like that, so I was kinda going in blind, but as soon as I saw I was shocked in that last episode when they were torturing Dox's followers, and then I was
Mhm.
shocked again with, Victor, and then again with the giant explosion. So I kinda had no idea, but I feel like they keep reintroducing this idea that Loki's a god. Like, I feel like we've heard that sprinkled in. I mean, it makes sense, of course he is one, but they're aware of it, and they're making it a point kinda throughout the season to recognize that he's a god, if that makes sense. So, maybe that's why there was a specific reason why he wasn't stuck in his own timeline or put back.
That's a good point as well, and I have noticed that. I guess my initial thought was like, it felt like season one, like that Loki, that was not the Loki we had ever known,
Mm,
right? And it actually was supposed to be the most Loki because it was like a different timeline of Loki that was kind of unaffected by more recent events like Thanos and all that. But this Loki was like he wasn't doing his god thing, and he's kind of strutting around wearing normal clothes. I feel like my thought was like, okay, they're really bringing attention to it now because they realized they're like, yeah, we kind of forgot what Loki was all about. So I don't know.
yeah, yeah, I
We'll
get
see.
that.
Okay, well let's dive in. Let's dive into like I guess we can kind of break down each of the TVA members and their new lives and kind of just talk about them in general. But the first one we get here, which I love this. This was so cool. Casey is escaping from Alcatraz. I loved. I really. I thought this was. Very very well said. And I believe it's actually based on a true event. There were
Yes.
three people that escaped from Alcatraz and were never found again. So that's interesting. Yeah, what did you think of Casey's timeline here?
I was gonna say, I think one of those individuals was named Frank as well, so they were definitely pinpointing on that real life interest. I don't know. I think Casey is definitely the character to have some type of shady background, which I think is just on the point for me compared to like everyone else's.
Yeah, because it's not his character, right?
Yep.
He is like much more even like easygoing. So it's interesting
By
to
the
see him in this.
books.
Yeah, exactly. But I will. There was like a lot of funny. Like this was the funniest he's ever been to me. There were like a lot of one-liners that he had, but they were really good. My favorite one. This is kind of towards the end though, when they're like, Loki's like, we all have to go back. We just go back to your timelines, and he's like, do we have to go exactly back where we were? Like he's like, can you put me in a different timeline? Oh, that
Or
was
when
great.
he's trying to steal the pad.
Yes, yes, there's a lot of good goofs and gas with, Casey here.
I was
Um,
kinda surprised to see B-15 as a doctor, though. I had
yeah,
no
let's talk
idea.
about that. It's an interesting choice, and I feel like that's probably the one we get the least information on.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I guess she's, a doctor. I don't really know what to make of that.
I think it makes total sense because from season 1, you have seen how compassionate and very not so much emotional, but she seemed like she was most impacted when she found out that she was a variant. So it's I don't know, it makes sense. She has that doctor type of attitude where she's
Yeah.
very caring and she's very noble and comes off as a leader, and it kind of shows throughout this season as well when she's especially trying to make that pitch towards Docs in a couple episodes a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that I also really appreciate from this back and forth and, like, tracking how these characters they're still being motivated by their own human nature, right?
Mhm.
And B-15 is a caring person, so therefore she would be a doctor, and therefore she would be a caring person in the TVA. Mobius likes jet skis. He's gonna like jet skis, in or out. Casey is the one. I don't know if I could really draw a line there. Like,
But it's so ironic because he's so I need to follow these rules, need to
yeah,
follow, and then he's breaking out of prison. So
yeah. There you go. Okay, so what about okay, let's go ahead and talk about Mobius. Mentioned it, the jet skis. I think this was like coming out of season one. I remember it being a topic of discussion where we needed the jet ski payoff for Mobius, and here we are.
I was really hoping he was gonna be like a jet ski model or something along those lines.
That opening shot where he's like, he's got like
Oh,
his
yeah.
backdrop and he's like filming on the jet ski. That was great.
Perfect. And then they're coming out with like little posters, like the MCU's dropping them on Instagram or something like that. They're like little ads.
Yeah.
So I think this is great. He Mobius definitely fits the dad personality, and to find out that he has a couple sons of his own, like I think everything about this character makes sense for what type of life he would have had.
Yeah. And not to toot our own horn a little bit here on Star Wars, but we did. I mean, we kind of called this shot for shot as far as what is Mobius' life is like. He's probably a dad. He
Mhm.
definitely loves jet skis. With that being said, I said at the time, and I still kind of believe that we might be set up for like a very tragic story with Mobius here.
Ooh.
Because I think again, there's some human nature inside of him that's like, I don't want to go back to that. So I think there is something inside of him that's saying that it doesn't turn out well.
Well, this is also the only other story where we get introduced to characters that he is like pertaining to, like his sons, for
Yeah.
example, and they make it a point to him saying like, "What about my boys? Am I going to come back to them? Is that even going to be me?" I mean, we saw him going back in time a little bit, and that was a different Mobius, technically.
Yeah. I gotta say though, I don't know that he's a believable dad. There was one line that was like insane to me. There was a point one of the sons like ran away from him, and then he called his other son to go get him, and he said, "If you get him, you can have the puppy." Or I'm pretty sure he said
Yeah.
you can get a dog. I was like,
No,
that's
no way.
crazy. Like, are you serious? Like, that one little task is gonna like open you up to like 15 years of commitment to an animal. It's wild.
Well, you gotta think about his financial situation as well. He has jet skis in his garage ready to sell. So who knows how much he dumps into that business.
Well said. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about OB. OB is he's got a very colorful background a little bit. This is one I probably could have seen coming a little bit. And the fact that, he is a science fiction writer and a scientist in his own right. We open on a fun scene with him in the library buying his own book that he put in there, which is I don't know how he thought that was gonna work out.
I think it's funny that he comes off as like this science fiction writer because he wrote they mention it so many times that he wrote the TVA book. So it's again just another case where it's so fitting to the character and it makes sense to what kind of life they had, and then kind of seeing their personalities kind of bleed over to what their variant self is like with their memory erased.
Yeah. And I love that he was so quick to jump on board with Loki when he was approached. Like he was like,
Yeah.
"Of course I believe you." Like it's just kind of crazy, and it fits his character. So
Well, even when he mentions like, "Oh, I lost my wife while building this temp pad for the last 2 years." He's just so like, "I'm doing this. This is the
yeah,
best thing ever."
yeah.
And I'd probably
So
do the same thing, to be honest.
another thing we end up getting, he's going to go get Sylvie. Sylvie's here. We kind of have already seen her life outside the TVA. There's a lot of interesting conversations they have. One, we kind of get to the heart of why Loki's doing a lot of this stuff, and he says he wants his friends back. I guess he made friends with them, and so yeah. What did you think about all the stuff involving Sylvie in this episode?
I think Sylvie's she's such an interesting character. Maybe I'll dive into it a little bit after I make this point. But that one scene where she's listening to the record player and we see everything start to get spaghettied, like that. Like I thought this show to me was coming off as we don't really get to see these stakes. We don't get to see these type of consequences in these other universes, and just kind of seeing that in slow motion, and then the salesman running towards her, like, to me, that's finally what, like, hit the nail on the coffin, like, "Oh, this is now we're starting to see how big of a stakes this is." It just stinks that it was all the way in episode 5 where we started seeing kinda, like, scenes of this, so I thought that scene was beautiful, very well shot, I loved it.
Yeah, no, that was definitely one of the cooler parts of the episode. I gotta say, still, said it before on the podcast. We'll say it again. I hate Sylvie. I hate this character. I really, really hate Sylvie. And I've talked to, I'll mention good friend of the show, Alex Bizarre. He tried to talk me down a little bit. He was like, "Listen, this is her character. This is her role. She's just supposed to play like the counter Loki, right?" And like to some extent, I see that. I see what they're trying to go with there, but it doesn't make her any less annoying. And she's constantly complaining. And it's like she's like more of like a thorn in Loki's side than anything at this point. And I'm over it. You suck, Sylvie.
Did you hate her first season?
She was fine the first. It was this season that I
Okay,
was like, I'm
okay.
out.
I
Yeah.
I'm in complete agreement with you. I don't know so much if I hate her, but I think her character is completely useless at this point. She's not there. She's not serving a purpose. She's at least in my eyes. She's like you mentioned. She's just there, kind of just being annoying. She keeps being at everything that's happening, but then not contributing to anything.
She's just there to say it's dumb, it's
She's
stupid, we shouldn't do this. And I'm like, God, just go away.
Well, like it's just like the directors are definitely different from this season to last, and you start to Sylvie's getting redeemed towards the end of season 1, and then we're introduced in this season, and she's back before her redemption. She's annoying, she's angry, she's bitter, all everything, and she despises Loki. And then the big thing that really hit it on my head is when Loki said, "I want my friends back." They kept shoving this romantic little bit of a some type of tension in the first season, enough to where like a kiss happened at the end, like something was there. And definitely the chemistry was so much better. And then this time, I thought for sure he was going to be saying something along the lines of like, "And you back," but like, no, just the friends.
Yeah, and I think that's again the problem. Yeah, I mean, what wonderfully said there because I agree with everything you said, and it's back to the problem that I had before, where we start these shows, we have all this growth, we have things that happen, but at the end of the day, nothing's supposed to happen because people don't have to watch these shows; they're more optional, so they don't want to change the universe by any means. And that's what this transition from season one to season two feels like. It feels like nothing happened in season one. We're just kind of
Mm.
we're back to square one a little bit in some ways. So.
The season is coming off as like a giant filler season to me. I don't know. It just coming off like just the story, like, oh, the loom's breaking. Let's spend 6 episodes trying to fix that, and then kind of like end up in certain situations along the way, like with the whole episode with Victor, and then come into this episode as well. I don't know. I feel like looking back at season one, I felt like those 6 weeks were long. Like I was really enjoying those 6 weeks. And I felt that same way with WandaVision. But this just flew on by. And I just don't know if it's so much that I'm not enjoying it as much, or if I don't know if each episode isn't as impactful as the last, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you know what? There's been a couple instances where you've texted me after you watched the episode, and then I'll be like, I haven't even watched it yet. It's getting to the point where kind of feels like a chore a little bit.
A little
Um,
bit, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I apologize to listeners. I don't want to be a hater. Trust me. Like,
Mhm.
and I've been the biggest MCU defender for the longest time, like way longer than I should have even. Like I was caught like phase four was going on. People were like, this sucks. I'm like, just wait, it'll get better, and then it didn't. So um, like trust me, I want to like this stuff, and I am trying. I don't want to be too much of a hater. With that being said, I got another complaint, and I kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
hinted
yeah.
at it
Let's
already.
hear it. Let's hear it.
They come up with this concept where they're like, we need like all the people are the coordinates to get back. And this is kind of what I was getting at. I was like, that makes no sense. Like, you're just saying that. And like, why did it? Here's the other thing: the TVA. There are other people in the TVA. So when the loom
Mhm.
explodes, I imagine the other people in TVA went somewhere too. It wasn't just this group of people. So if you are looking for the coordinates, you need to find everyone in the TVA, not just your buddies. It makes no sense to me.
The MacGuffins in this show is bad, I think. We got the whole first the construction of the loom came out of nowhere, nothing like that. And then now we have, like you mentioned, everyone needed to come coordinate for what reason? Don't know. Still don't know why. Loki time slips. Still don't know why he has that power. It's and then look at Obi. He's able to build a temp pad. I mean, he mentions it takes him a long time, but he's able to control it and use it just like any other thing. Like he's used it his whole life. I don't know. It's just so many things are coming off as very convenient throughout this show, and it's kind of making us as the viewers feel a little dumb. Like I don't know. It's just like they need to hold our hands pretty much.
Yeah. And I constantly go back to the Spider Verse movies and just how they were able to take this high concept idea of a multiverse, which makes no sense on its face, give it rules, give it structure, make it make sense, and then apply it to twists and things that we understand and can theorize about and be like, oh, that actually makes sense why it worked that way. And while it's all ridiculous in some way, this one does a way worse job of explaining that to us. And again, I said it before, it feels like they don't even try really.
No, they don't. And I feel like again, we mentioned earlier, there's 10 different ways that they've tried to explain the multiverse in this universe. And I think the Spider-Verse just does it does a clever way of explaining it to us. They make it unique without trying to mimic previous installments as well.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, what else? What else about this episode? Am I missing anything? I mean, I feel like we touched on, the high points, but I'm sure there's something that you might want to touch on too.
You know, um, Not really. I did appreciate I did appreciate, just getting that backstory, kind of building that character development. I do think some of the scenes with Loki and Sylvie were very strong.
Yeah.
Definitely motivates me as a viewer to I like Loki a lot more kind of this season because he's having those heart to heart moments a lot more than he previous had, and it's nice, he has friends, someone who's always been alone his entire life, and Sylvie even mentions that at the bar. So another reason why they should at least be more coherent and have better chemistry because they're both so alone. So why wouldn't opposites attract, or the fact that they can recognize each other of being in that similar type of situation?
I will say for all the complaints about the show, it never falls on Tom Hiddleston. I felt like he's done a
No.
great job. He is great in this role. Like, his face at all times is just on, and like whether he's excited or stressed, like he's chewing the scenery. And he's doing a great job as Loki. So
I was gonna say, I think everyone's doing a fantastic job,
that's fair.
even outside of Sylvie, of course. But
That's
I
fair.
think like Kyuhei Kwan is doing an amazing job. What's his name? Guy who plays Kang. I can't
Jonathan
remember.
Majors, yeah.
Jonathan Majors is doing good. So there's just so many unique performances, and I don't think that's to me. It seems like the more so the writing is
Yeah.
kind of where it's hurting.
Yeah, for sure. So, and that's the thing about having this, massive media conglomerate that is Disney. You can get anybody you want to come work on your shows, but you still have to make them good. And
Mm.
I think that's the part they're missing. So,
Do you think Michael Waldron was still like a screenwriter in this season as well?
I have no idea. Was he the screener? I don't
Yeah, he
know.
was he was screenwriter of season 1, and then he did Multiverse of Madness, and that's when he started getting hate, and then he was rumored or he was signed on to do Secret King Dynasty, and
Gotcha.
that's when everyone freaked out. I follow him on Instagram. I have not seen him promote this show this season at all, so I'm
Interesting.
curious to know if they pulled him out or not. But I thought, like I said, I think Loki season 1 is really well written. I think it's very unique. But then looking at Multiverse of Madness, complete 180.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, Zach. Well, let me ask you this. Let's talk about some theories going forward. Do you have any idea of where this might go? There's been a lot of Easter eggs as well. I mention some interesting X-Men stuff, kind of in the background of some stuff. Are we going there? What's happening here?
I think they're gonna fix the loom. I think that's pretty obvious. I want to see a cameo, but I don't think one will happen. I feel like the fan base kind of hypes that up a little too much, and I get caught up in that as well. And my biggest consequence to that was Secret Invasion. I thought for sure there was going to be a couple cameos in there. Not at all. Possibly an appearance from Kate. I can see that happening for sure. I mean, they already had Jonathan Majors in the show. Would be easy to kind of pull up the makeup and film a quick scene. I can definitely see that, and I think Ravona will probably make another appearance again.
Yeah. My crazy theory, I've already said it on the podcast, but I wouldn't be surprised. Well, I would be because it's kind of crazy. Like I said, it's a crazy theory. Let Loki kill Kang, and let's end the season with Loki being the ruler of the multiverse. I think that's what I want to see.
Well, that's what they have you been hearing this theory that his powers are kind of leaning into this
I
new type
haven't.
of version of him? I guess there's this recent comic book line where Loki is no more the god of mischief. He is the god of story writing or something along that, where he has not he's more of kind of like an anti-hero, but he's writing all the stories and everyone is kind of pinpointing that to time slipping because now he has full control. He can pretty much go back in time and rewrite everything if he wants to. I mean, we'll find out if he ends up saving Victor or not. My guess is that he does. But maybe we might see a little bit more to that. I think it would be cool to see a
Yeah.
Thor,
Oh,
a
that'd be
Thor
crazy.
cameo, just to kind
Yeah.
of pull it back to him a little bit, but probably not.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I also think that they are kind of like leaning back into mentioning that he's a god doing this stuff, but also he seems a little more mischievous than he was in season one, especially in the first couple episodes. It seemed like maybe they were leaning into the darker side of Loki a little bit more than they have. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a possibility.
I just there's so many theories I hear everywhere, so it's kinda hard to, like, gather what I can believe or what I could see happening. I do like the theory, though, of, like, the Deadpool 3 storyline where they're pulling in, different characters from each universes. The TVA is, at least, and then they're throwing them in that arena leading into Secret Wars, or even
Yeah.
similar to Deadpool 3, I believe, but, yeah, I don't know. I
Well,
think
that
you
yeah.
I could see Loki being on top at the end.
I this is the other thing about the MCU. I don't trust that. I don't think they have the self-control to
No.
not have a big cameo, especially when you're dealing with the multiverse here. I think something's going to happen, and again, like uh maybe there is an element of me as a fan that kind of clings on to the idea of, oh, maybe we could at least get a cool cameo, because at this point we're not getting anything else. We're not going to get a good story.
I was praying for a Daisy Johnson cameo from Agents of
Yeah,
Shield for
that'd be
Secret
cool.
Invasion. It made the most sense. She's such a small, well, she's a huge character in the show, but would have been so small and perfect in my eyes.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
dumb.
Alrighty, well, that we kind of touched on everything, but we did talk about how we wanted to mention the Echo trailer.
Oh my gosh.
Tommy is gonna be mad at me because I've been telling him that I'm not watching trailers. But listen, I saw this drop and I could not help myself. And here's the thing: I think I'm the most excited person for Echo. I loved Echo in Hawkeye. Like that was my favorite character in Hawkeye. It's one of my favorite original characters to come out of the TV shows thus far. I love Echo, so I've been excited for it. I hear a lot of like hate a little bit, but I felt
Mhm.
really vindicated by this badass trailer. So, what did you think of the Echo trailer?
I'm a complete 180 after watching that trailer. I thought this show, there's a reason why they're releasing all these episodes at once. They keep pushing it and they kind of keep shoving it behind closed doors. I don't know. It definitely seemed like this project was not something they cared a whole lot to promote, because was kind of such a smaller character in Hawkeye. And I wasn't too excited, to be honest. This is like one of the first supporting character TV shows, like similar to Agatha, coming out next year, I think. Um, but yeah, I loved it. I thought the trailer was awesome. My jaw dropped. I was shocked. I did not know this was a MA rating at all. And just the opening shot of Wilson Fisk going ham, loved it. I'm so excited.
I actually didn't know it was an MA rating until you just said that.
You
So, I
Oh,
mean,
really?
I
Okay.
was like, wow, this is really dark. But I didn't realize they actually had the rating behind it. So that's cool. Yeah, they were like, she was pulling off headshots and like there was like, like some serious blood in the trailer. So yeah, like I'm excited for like, something more along the lines of what we got with Daredevil. And I think that's the big thing is like we are kind of in that universe a little bit more with Kingpin.
Mhm.
So yeah, get Daredevil up in there, and it's gonna be dope.
It kinda gives us a little hope for that Daredevil show now too.
Yes.
Kinda seeing how they can handle this type of tone and if they can go darker. And I can tell you right now, this trailer alone has been way darker than any of the projects I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
They were emphasizing Moon Knight as being like the darkest show, the darkest project ever, and I was like, "No, not at all," afterwards. So, this and like Werewolf by Night, wow, crazy.
I do see this as maybe them kind of testing the waters a little bit before
Yeah,
Daredevil, or at least like
seeing what they can.
let's see what we can get away with. Let's see what we can do from
Mhm.
like a technical perspective. So this seems like it might be like the test run before they really dove into Daredevil. So,
That's what I'm thinking, yeah. I thought I saw, like, a news report of them mentioning she's gonna be kind of a villain,
ooh,
more leaning towards a villain in this story, which confuses me because I thought she kind of had a redemption, or did she have a redemption? I don't know.
yeah. I will say like the ending because a lot of what we see with Kingpin is in flashbacks in
Mhm.
this trailer until the very end when I can't remember what line he says, but he says something and it cuts to him and he's got the eye patch, obviously from where he was shot in the face and nobody believed that he died. So yeah, that was really cool.
They coulda left that part out. I think a nice little surprise, but we all kinda knew it was coming, like, maybe at, like, the end episode 1 or something similar to that.
Yeah,
But I am excited that this is all coming out at once.
yeah,
We're getting all 6 episodes at once, so I'm very excited. I don't have to go week to week remembering to watch this show similar to what I'm doing with Loki.
yeah. And if, you mentioned that kind of looks like a red flag, and I'll push back a little bit in that like. I feel like
Mhm.
they've been experimenting a lot on Disney Plus and like how they're dropping things, when they're dropping things, what times they're dropping things, and you know whether they release multiple things at once. I consider this to be an experiment on their behalf and seeing what the reception is like. Also, there's if you look at the schedule of Disney Plus, there was no place to put this if you weren't
Nope.
going to run it simultaneously with Loki or
Mhm.
Ahsoka or another big show. So that was kind of my thought process. Then again, that also might mean, they're like, well, this isn't as good as Loki, so this will be the one that drops all together.
I think they did such a great job with Andor and that's length. I don't know. A lot of people said there was a lot of filler episodes. I didn't think so as much. I thought that was like a perfect length for season one. What was that, like 15, 16
I think it was
episodes?
12.
Okay, maybe I was way
Andor,
off.
yeah.
Yeah. But it's just
Because
perfect. It's just way better.
yeah, and I'll definitely yell at anybody that says there's filler episodes. I guess the thing I loved about Andor, and now I'm just off topic talking about Andor, but the thing I loved about Andor is it kind of was, it wasn't really a Dave Filoni thing, but it felt like his arcs, the way he structured
Mhm.
Clone Wars, where it would be like 3 episodes
Yeah.
focusing on
Yeah.
certain characters, and while we were still focusing on Andor at all times, it seemed like there were like different genres of Andor, right? We would get like the heist, the prison, the so I really appreciated how they did that. Do we know how many episodes Echo has?
I think it's 6,
Okay, well,
unfortunately.
yeah, I don't know why
Well,
they're trying to tell a story in 6 episodes anymore, but whatever.
I'm gonna freak when the first MCU movie or MCU show that is in 6 episodes, they did a I thought they did good with WandaVision being 9, and I know those were half an hour episodes, but those that fit the show. So I thought for sure they wouldn't keep leaning into this 6 episode arc because at this point it's very formulaic. The
And it's
4th
not
working.
working. Like, yeah, it's just
No,
not
it's
working.
not.
Like, clearly, it's
Yeah,
not working. Do something different,
no.
guys.
4th
Um,
episode has its cliffhanger, 5th episode has its character development, and then 6
yeah,
has its boss fight, so I don't know.
yeah. I saw a not a meme, an image, I guess, a
Mhm.
collage of like all the fourth episodes of Marvel shows, and they were all like shots of really cool things that happened in the fourth. Which I was like, okay, that's cool. But yeah, that's what happens every fourth episode. You get like that cool moment to kind of bring you into the penultimate episode. So again, I was like, yeah, that's cool, but that's also the problem.
Back when Moon Knight came out, Kyle and I actually did a ranking of all the 4th episode
Oh,
cliffhangers
really?
because they were all so repeatable. So,
Oh,
yeah.
that's a good idea. Um, okay, well, do you want to move into some recommendations? Is
Yes,
there anything you've been
sir.
watching you want to tell people about?
Yes. I was on a plane about 2 weeks ago, so I grinded through a lot of movies. One that I would like to recommend is called Apollo 10 and a half. Have you heard of this? So it's
This
like
is
an
new to me.
animation.
Yeah.
It's new. Okay, it's an animation movie. But I think it's a really unique coming of age story that really pulls you into the 60s era. It's focusing around the space what is it? The space race. It focuses on a kid who wants to be an astronaut, but then, it follows his day-to-day life. His dad's a NASA worker, very unique. I love the little stories that they kind of play throughout the movie. It's on Netflix, quick watch, hour and a half. I really like it. And there's actually another movie as well called Summit of the Gods. I believe that's what it's called. It's also an animation movie, and I've only watched half of it, but I loved it so far. And it's about rock climbing. It's
Ooh.
about like an individual trying to climb Mount Everest, and then there's like this side plot of like a little crime drama kind of sprinkled in there too. And that one's a quick watch too, so definitely recommend those two.
Well, here I am adding things to my watch list on Letterboxd as we speak. So, is that
Both
it?
on Netflix.
Anything else you want to tell people about?
And then Invincible season 2. Ooh,
I
got
haven't
the
watched that episode
you ever
yet.
watched it? Ooh,
Yeah.
we're coming up, babe. Yeah, this episode was awesome. I think it's just a great way of introducing just the season as a whole. We're getting 4 episodes and then we're taking a break, which kind of stinks because
Yeah.
it's been almost 2 years since we got this. But I'm excited. I'm a big fan of season one. I definitely think it's one of my personal favorites for a superhero show. It's definitely up there. Like I like this better than The Boys. I'm probably in the minority with that one.
No,
But
I'm on board with you there.
Yeah, I just think it's so unique in every character development, and it's so much more than shock value. I know a lot of people kind of lean to because of that. It's so different, but I think there's so many other highlights to that show.
For sure. Well said. I've got a game to recommend.
Ooh,
And everyone check the year because this is wild that I'm saying this in 2023. But guys, I'm back in Fortnite, baby. OG Fortnite's here, and I gotta say, if you are one of the people that played Fortnite back in the day, if you want that nostalgia back, you have to go check it out because it truly is. They took everything back. The map is back to how it was. The guns are, we get the OG guns. There's like music cues that just kind of bring me back to that point in time. And yeah, I forget how long ago it was we got all this, the Fortnite craze started, but it's kind of back. And if you play Fortnite now, it's almost unrecognizable to what it is to what it was back then. So it kind of it leaves me wondering, like, why did they ever change it? Because this is so good. It's so good the way it was. So yeah, if you have not hopped into OG Fortnite, you got to do it.
when did that come out in like 2016
I think
ish?
so. Yeah.
But that's like the peak of not Gen V, Gen Z, generation right now. You know, they grew up on Fortnite. Like I'm sure most of them were like 10 to 11 years old when it came out. So now they're in college. You know, they're having the best time of their lives. I've not heard of Fortnite for the last 5 years until this one week. You know, and I guess based on what you said, is it really that different from what it used to be?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot. It's definitely changed a lot. And some things I will say changed for the better. So they kept a couple like quality of life things that that they weren't there in the original game, but it's stuff like, mantling over objects, like just moving around the map a little bit easier, stuff like that. So it is like the old game, like just kind of revamped a little bit because they have been not only just like changing the map, changing the guns, changing basically everything in the
Change
Fortnite.
characters, right?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I love it. I'm probably gonna play after this. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah,
I guess kind of finalizing, wait, do you have any other
nope, that's
recommendations?
it.
Sorry. Okay, gotcha. I guess, finalizing, guess what else comes out this week? We got the Marvels.
Yes.
I'm curious to know your thoughts on that. It's
You
being
know what?
similar to the MCU talk.
Yeah. I'm actually I'm excited. And I
Okay.
think it's because I don't foresee this movie trying to take itself too seriously, and I think that's what I need from the MCU right now is just a little bit of fun, silliness, and I say that, and then I immediately think of Thor: Love and Thunder, which I hated. So maybe I don't want that, but I feel like at this day and age, Loki's great, but one thing that I thought this is probably a hot take, but I thought She-Hulk did a good job of leaning into like the ridiculousness of what the MCU is now. And if the Marvels can capture a little bit of that same vibe, I'm all about it.
I feel like it's gonna come and go kind of thing. We watch it, we might have liked it a little bit, and then kind of move on. I feel because I think this runtime is like the shortest MCU movie ever coming out. I think it's like an hour and 40 minutes, hour 45.
I take
Um,
that as a positive.
you think that's positive? Okay.
Yeah.
I
Just because I feel like so often they kind of get lost in the sauce in some of these movies and different. Like a lot of times, I'm just like, what are we doing here, guys? So
mhm,
if they have like a cohesive, condensed
yeah,
story, I'm all about it.
and they're able to use up every single minute to a
Yeah.
good amount. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I'm pretty neutral on it. I'm curious to know what the box office is gonna do though. There is like no hype behind this movie.
Yeah, there's like it's like a combination of like very bad timing for the MCU where like everyone is saying it's dying, which it
Mhm.
kind of is. Um Also it's got like there's also like a lot of there's like the Brie Larson haters out there, like kind of like the sexist side of the internet that's kind of like review bombing this stuff already. It's just got like a series of unfortunate things surrounding it that I don't think it's gonna do well.
Well, Captain Marvel made over 1 billion. Like, I always forget that, like, I don't know and then this is projected at, like, 50 million opening weekend, and then compared to, like, Five Nights at Freddy's that just happened 2 weeks ago, it's gonna be interesting for the MCU
Yep.
this weekend.
Alrighty, Zach. What else? Anything else? How about you tell people where they can find your podcast?
Yeah, you can go listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Hopefully we come back off our break here soon. But yeah, give us a call, follow us on Instagram. We would love to answer any questions or anything like that. I'm pretty active on the Instagram, so always
You got
love to chat movies.
Yeah, hit this guy up. He's also active in our Discord, which is always great. So anybody who wants to come talk to Zach, we get our Discord and do that. So, all right. Well, in that case, I will go ahead and close this out. I'd like to remind you guys to rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Also, please subscribe because we're going to be here every single week. We're going to be here twice next week with Loki and the Marvels coverage. So if you subscribe, that will download straight to your phone. It's super convenient. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Stark Wars Pod. And as I said, we have a Discord community, so you can hit us up on Instagram. We will send you a link personally to get you in there. But that is all we got for you guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye.